Hey guys, tonight we drift back to the dusty, gaslit streets of early 1900s Madrid, where horses still outnumber cars, and no one has any idea what an offside trap is. The year is 1902. You're standing in a schoolyard, watching a group of young men, mostly students, mostly dreamers, lace up leather boots that creak like antique furniture. Their kit is plain white, clean and awkwardly formal, like they're dressing for a wedding that somehow involves mud. You hear the thud of a heavy ball, more medicine than football, and someone shouts in a curious blend of Spanish and British slang. This is no polished team. There are no stands, no chants, and certainly no Champions League anthem, just chalky lines on a dirt patch and the beginning of something absurdly grand. Back then, football in Spain was still considered an English eccentricity. Many of the early clubs were founded by British expatriates or influenced by British teachers. Madrid Football Club was no different. It wasn't even Real yet. You smile at the thought. Real Madrid, without the Real, is like tea without the nap. Still, the passion was there, stitched into the very first kick. The founders were brothers Juan and Carlos Padros, Catalan by origin, but deeply in love with the sport. They helped organize the club's first official match in May 1902, just days after the club's official founding. The opponent? Barcelona? That's right. The very first cup competition, the Copa de la Coronación, already had the seeds of El Clásico blooming. Madrid lost, but that tiny rivalry would age like a fine Spanish Rioja, or maybe a volatile bottle of cava, depending on your taste. Even then, the club's colors were symbolic. The all-white kit wasn't just a practical choice. It echoed the uniforms of famous English clubs like Corinthian FC, known more for their gentleman amateur style than ruthless competitiveness. That influence stuck, for better or worse. Early Real Madrid players were as much diplomats as athletes. One account even claims they stopped a match because a dignitary was arriving late. Imagine doing that today. Ramos would have picked up 2 yellow cards just waiting. The pitch? Not quite the Bernabeu. More like a glorified dust bowl behind a bull ring. You try to sit on one of the benches, but it's just a plank, slightly tilted. There's no stadium lighting. Matches end at dusk. And the referee? A local banker moonlighting for coins and complaints. Here's your first quirky tidbit. During those early years, players were responsible for bringing their own balls. You'd turn up for a match and hope nobody forgot the equipment. That's right, professionalism was a distant dream. Boots were mismatched, jerseys borrowed, and strategy? Just get it to the fast kid and hope he doesn't trip. Yet somehow, through all this chaos, the club won its first trophy, the Copa del Rey, in 1905. That's 3 years after formation, pretty fast by anyone's standards. The team even won the tournament 3 more times in a row. Momentum was building. The city began to pay attention. People showed up. Not a lot, but enough to matter. Now, historians still argue whether Real Madrid's early success was due to actual footballing brilliance or simply better organization than the rest. It's possible they just showed up with the full number of players, while others forgot half their kit. Whatever the reason, the club began developing a reputation. Polished, persistent, proud, but not perfect, not by a long shot. In 1912, they moved to a new field, the O'Donnell Stadium, Madrid's first proper football ground. You blink and find yourself in the wooden stands, surrounded by bowler hats and cigarette smoke. The crowd hums politely. Goals are applauded, not screamed over. It feels more like theater than sport. Still, there's energy, a charge in the air that's hard to name. As the 1910s rolled on, Madrid started facing stiffer competition. Clubs from Bilbao, San Sebastián, and especially Catalonia began catching up. The Copa del Rey became a battleground of egos, styles, and regional pride. Football was becoming Spain's unofficial language. And here comes your reality check. While this all sounds grand and romantic, most players had day jobs. Many were lawyers, teachers, or even government clerks. You imagine finishing up paperwork, grabbing your boots, and heading out to face a full-contact sport on a gravel pitch. If that doesn't knock you out, you're probably made of marble. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I also want to know, where are you tuning in from, and what time is it there? Leave a comment below so I can picture you listening in your little corner of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The foundation was laid, the kit was white, and Madrid was stirring awake with football fever. It wasn't glorious yet, not even close, but the spark was there, and soon a crown would arrive. You're still brushing dust off your shoes from that O'Donnell pitch when suddenly you find yourself in a crisply pressed uniform salon circa 1920. The air smells faintly of cologne, fresh ink, and ego. You're about to witness Real Madrid get knighted not by sword, but by royal decree. Spain's King Alfonso XIII is the man with the pen, and with a graceful flick, he bestows upon the club the right to add a single shimmering word: Real. Royal. Just like that, Madrid Football Club becomes Real Madrid Club de Futbol. It's a glow-up, no doubt. You can almost hear the fabric of their jerseys tighten with pride. From this moment forward, the team would carry the crown symbol above their crest, and with it, the burden of expectation. Royal favor sounds glamorous until you realize it comes with eyes, lots of them. But the name change wasn't just cosmetic. It was a sign of how important football was becoming to Spanish culture. What began as a student hobby was morphing into a source of national identity and regional rivalry. The crown made Real Madrid more than a club. It made them a symbol, whether they liked it or not. You shift uneasily in your seat. There's something almost theatrical about this phase. The club now walks with more swagger, their kits looking cleaner, their posture a little too proud for a team that still had yet to dominate fully. They moved to the Campo de Ciudad Lineal, a modern field for its time. Wooden bleachers, better drainage, and stands that could host over 8,000 people. Huge, if you were used to playing in alleyways behind butcher shops. Now here's a quirky tidbit. The title Real wasn't permanent. During the Second Spanish Republic in the 1930s, all royal symbols were banned, and the club quietly dropped the crown and the Real from their name. They were simply Madrid Football Club again, like putting the tiara back in the drawer during a family argument. That crown would later return, of course, but only after the Republic fell and the monarchy's influence slinked back in. Meanwhile, on the pitch, Madrid was building a team worth watching. You listen to the thunk of the ball against shin bones, the occasional crack of a header, and the quiet murmurs of formation talk. 2, 3, 5, if you can believe it. 5 forwards, total chaos, but elegant chaos, the kind that put bums in seats and ink on front pages. By the 1920s, Real Madrid had won regional championships and were inching towards something bigger. In 1929, Spanish football finally got serious. La Liga was born. 10 clubs, a proper table, regular competition, and with that, Real Madrid entered its first season and finished second. Barcelona took the inaugural title. You don't have to imagine the outrage in Madrid. Just look at any Clásico today and dial it back 90 years. Still, finishing second in a brand new league wasn't bad. The team had consistency, confidence, and increasingly, money. Now, historians still argue whether the club's early success was fueled more by savvy leadership or their elite connections. After all, it didn't hurt to be the royal club in a capital city. But the team was also smart. They poached well, they trained hard, and they played to win. Take Santiago Bernabéu. You spot him now as a tall, serious-looking striker with a bullet header and an unshakable stare. He joined the club as a teenager, but trust me, you'll be seeing a lot more of him later, when he trades in his boots for a suit and reshapes Real Madrid forever. But that's for another night. In these formative years, football still wasn't a career. Players trained in the evenings, played on Sundays, and worked all week. Contracts, barely a thing. Transfers, messy. Injuries, handled with bandages and brandy. And if you think VAR is frustrating, try waiting 3 weeks for the newspaper to admit a referee was blind. You're probably wondering what the fans were like. Not the choreographed, stadium-filling ultras of today, but something more intimate. You'd find families bringing folding chairs, vendors selling warm almonds in paper cones, and the occasional brawl over a disallowed goal. Tickets were cheap, loyalty was loud. No one had a jersey, but everyone had an opinion. And the rivalries were growing. Not just Barcelona. Atletico Madrid, then Athletic Aviación, was becoming a real thorn, a club tied to the military and fueled by its own ambitions. Those early Madrid derbies, less about points, more about pride. By the end of the 1930s, Real Madrid had established itself as a consistent threat, though far from the titan it would become. No league titles yet, a few cup runs, glimpses of something greater. And just as they were poised to take that next leap, the world cracked open. Civil unrest, dictatorship, and one of the most brutal conflicts in Spain's history loomed just over the horizon. For now, though, you rest on the wooden bleachers, listening to the click of boots on gravel, the echo of a whistle, and the distant chime of church bells marking the hour. The crown above the crest shines faintly in the low afternoon light. The storm is coming, but tonight, it's just football. You wake to the sound of silence. No shouts, no goals, no vendors hollering about warm nuts or cheap vino. Just the low hum of a city on edge. It's 1936, and Madrid isn't talking football anymore. It's talking survival. The Spanish Civil War has begun. You walk the eerily quiet streets, and every cobblestone feels heavy with tension. The stadiums are empty. Grass grows wild in the corners of abandoned pitches. Real Madrid, like everything else in Spain, has been paused, hijacked by politics, conflict, and the uncomfortable reality that football, for all its escapism, cannot escape war. Some players enlist, others flee. A few simply vanish, their names never again appearing in club programs or on matchday rosters. The club offices? Seized. The trophies? Hidden. The kit? Folded away, waiting. You sit in the old Ciudad Lineal field and notice how quiet the place becomes without cheers, how even the wind seems reluctant to rustle the nets. Historians still argue whether Real Madrid's identity was reshaped by the war or merely preserved in amber. On the one hand, the club remained dormant, unable to compete. On the other hand, it never collapsed. Other clubs fractured into oblivion. Real Madrid endured, barely, but stubbornly. One quirky note: during this wartime period, makeshift matches were occasionally played to lift spirits. These games weren't official, and many featured players from rival clubs mixed into scratch teams, like football's version of a ceasefire. Imagine a Madrid midfielder feeding passes to a Barca forward while both sides pretend not to notice the rifles leaning on the sidelines. When the war ends in 1939, Spain is scarred and staggering. And into this weary landscape stumbles Santiago Bernabeu. Remember him from earlier? He's older now, sterner, with a brow furrowed like a map of Castilla. After serving in the war himself, he returns to find the club he loved in ruins, physically, financially, spiritually. Most would walk away. He does the opposite. He rolls up his sleeves and essentially rebuilds the club from rubble. He finds the old players, lures back the staff, raises money, and even hauls bricks to help construct a new stadium. That's not a metaphor. He literally helped carry bricks. Now here's where it gets quietly mythic. Bernabeu wasn't just a former striker or some post-war manager. He became the architect of modern Real Madrid. He believed in vision, in infrastructure, and most importantly, in outgrowing the past. And he starts that plan during the bleakest, most uncertain chapter of Spanish history. Real Madrid, being based in the capital, often found itself caught in the uncomfortable orbit of the regime. Historians still debate how much favoritism the club actually received. Was it political blessing or just strategic excellence? Maybe both, maybe neither. That's the slippery slope of revisionist football history. You, of course, just want to see the ball roll again. And by the early 1940s, it does. Slowly, clumsily, but it rolls. Real Madrid returns to La Liga in 1939. The squad is patchy, the tactics outdated. Still, they make it to the Copa del Rey final, then renamed the Copa del Generalissimo, yes, that Generalissimo, and lose to Sevilla in one of the highest scoring finals in Spanish football history. 6-2. Not a win, but a reminder. Real Madrid is still here. The 1940s become a rebuilding decade. Bernabeu pushes for a new stadium and construction begins in earnest. In 1947, it opens. The Nuevo Estadio Chamartín, with room for over 75,000 fans. A football cathedral rises from the ashes, concrete and steel replacing wooden planks and muddy sidelines. You sit in the top row, eyes wide, air crisp. This place smells like ambition. And here comes your quirky tidbit. In one of the early matches played at the new stadium, the club used numbers on the back of players' shirts for the first time. Seems obvious now, right? But back then, it was revolutionary. Suddenly fans could shout, "Pass to number 7," without guessing who was who. Fashion meets function. As the decade closes, Real Madrid still isn't dominating, but they're ready. Infrastructure is solid, leadership is visionary, and Bernabeu? He's already looking beyond the Spanish league, scanning the horizon for something bigger, something continental. You stretch your legs and glance around the emptying stands. The city is healing, just a little. Football is back, cautiously. You can feel the pulse again, not thundering yet, but steady. Real Madrid is no longer just a club with royal favor. It's something deeper, something forged by war, resilience, and raw belief. In the dark corners of the stadium, beneath the new concrete, hope hums. The crown above the crest still shines, maybe brighter now. And you, perched in the quiet stands, are just in time for what comes next. It's the early 1950s, and you feel the tempo shift under your feet. Madrid isn't just rebuilding anymore, it's reloading. The stadium is grand, the suits are pressed, and in the dusty boardroom of the Bernabeu, a phone call is about to change the course of football history. The name on the line? Alfredo Di Stefano. Now, unless you've been living under a goalpost, you've probably heard of him. Di Stefano is not just a striker, he's a shapeshifter, a football alchemist. The man could score, assist, defend, and probably drive the team bus. And in 1953, two clubs want him badly. Real Madrid and, you guessed it, Barcelona. What unfolds next is the stuff of whispered legends and academic migraines. Even today, historians still argue whether the transfer was clean, crooked, or somewhere in between. The basic facts? Di Stefano was playing in Colombia after fleeing Argentina's economic instability. Both Barca and Madrid negotiate separately with different clubs who claim they own him. FIFA steps in, the Spanish government whispers something, and suddenly, Madrid gets their man. Barcelona fans will tell you it was theft. Madrid fans will call it fate. You just sit back with a warm drink and watch the mayhem unfold like a football-themed telenovela. The moment Di Stefano pulls on the white shirt, everything changes. Real Madrid, once a promising team in a regal wrapper, becomes a monster. His debut? A casual 4 goals. The fans can't believe it, the opponents definitely can't stop it. Di Stefano plays like a ghost, popping up everywhere, tackling in defense, orchestrating midfield, then casually chipping the keeper from outside the box. He's not flashy, he's relentless. And Madrid suddenly starts winning. Not just once, constantly. You feel it in the stands. The buzz is real. The Bernabeu becomes a theater of destruction, and Di Stefano is the lead actor. In his first full season, Madrid wins La Liga. Then another. Then another. A dynasty is forming before your sleep-heavy eyes. But here's the kicker. This is just the domestic warm-up. Bernabeu, always 3 steps ahead, has his eye on Europe. He joins forces with the editor of L'Équipe to dream up a bold idea, a pan-European tournament to determine the true kings of football. The result? The European Cup, born in 1955. It's the Champions League's moody, chain-smoking grandfather. And guess who wins the very first one? That's right, Real Madrid. The final is played in Paris. You're sitting in the Parc des Princes, scarf draped over your knees, the French night crisp and expectant. Madrid face Stade de Reims and trail twice, but Di Stefano, along with Paco Gento and Hector Real, drag them back into it. Final score, 4-3. History made. That win sparked something wild, a streak of 5 stark and straight European Cups from 1956 to and still played like angels on fire. Opponents began fearing the all-white kits. They weren't just a color anymore, they were an omen. By 1960, the legend peaks at Hampden Park in Scotland. The final? Madrid versus Eintracht Frankfurt. The performance? Absurd. Di Stefano scores 3. Puskas, or on him soon, scores 4. Yes, 7 goals between 2 players. Madrid wins 7-3. The stadium stands and applauds. Even the losing fans can't be mad. You lean back, eyes heavy, ears full of ghostly roars from a crowd long gone. Because Di Stefano wasn't just winning games, he was reinventing the sport. He introduced a style of total football decades before the Dutch claimed the term. Always moving, always available, always dangerous. Historians still debate his exact position. Was he a striker, a midfielder, a sweeper? The best guess? He was everywhere the team needed him. And more importantly, he taught Real Madrid what it meant to be merciless. But even golden eras have shadows. Barcelona never forgave the Di Stefano affair. And as Madrid collected trophies, critics whispered about Franco's Spain, suggesting favorable treatment from referees or government influence. Maybe, maybe not. Madrid fans will remind you of the sheer brilliance on the pitch. You shrug. Asleep or awake, you're just here for the spectacle. And spectacle there was. The team's core, Di Stefano, Real, Gento, Copa, Puskas, played like symphonies in boots. Opposing teams tried everything. Man marking, defensive bunkers, prayers. Nothing worked. Goals came anyway, often 5 at a time. And while Bernabeu watched from the director's box, fingers tented beneath his chin, the world began to realize this wasn't just a football team. This was an empire. The press started calling them the kings of Europe, and nobody disagreed. The white shirts were no longer quaint. They were holy vestments. Wearing one came with weight, expectation, history, and a guarantee of exhaustion from lifting silverware. As the 1960s dawn, Di Stefano is still scoring. The Bernabeu is always full, and the trophy cabinet is starting to creak from the weight of all that silver. And you? You're curled beneath the bleachers, warm, drowsy, heart thumping slowly to the rhythm of greatness. The smell of cigar smoke clings to the corridors of the Bernabeu. It's 1961 now, and you blink into the golden haze of a club that's already conquered everything, but still isn't done. Real Madrid has just wrapped up its 5th consecutive European Cup, and the world expects more. Always more. You hear it in the foot. But now, there's another name lighting up the scoreboard almost as often. Ferenc Puskas. Puskas is different. Where Di Stefano is all movement and grit, Puskas is pure poetry with a beer belly. He's Hungarian royalty, a refugee from the 1956 uprising, and somehow still has a left foot forged from golden spite. You can hear the crack of his shot echo through the city when he connects. And here's your quirky tidbit. Despite being shorter and slower than most defenders, Puskas once scored 20 hat-tricks for Real Madrid. That's not a typo. 20. The man turned goal scoring into a sleeping habit. Madrid's dominance continues, but now the aura begins to fray at the edges. In 1961, they finally lose the European Cup final to Benfica, a young team with a certain teenager named Eusebio lighting up the scene. It's the first time since the tournament's creation that Madrid don't lift the trophy. You feel the silence hit the Bernabeu like a cold wind. It's a loss, yes, but also a signal. The era of unchecked dominance is beginning to flicker. Still, the 1960s aren't exactly barren. Madrid continues to win La Liga like it's a seasonal allergy. 10 titles during that decade alone. But Europe becomes harder. More teams, better tactics, fewer mistakes allowed. The continent is catching up. And here's where things get thorny. While Madrid tries to maintain its divine status on the pitch, off the pitch, Spain is still ruled by Francisco Franco's dictatorship. That's not just background noise. Politics and football are now intimately tangled, and historians still argue whether Madrid's success in this period was clean. Some say the regime favored them. Better funding, smoother travel, a certain leniency from officials. Others argue that Madrid simply adapted faster to modern football, while others lagged. It's not a comfortable debate, but then again, greatness rarely comes without some dust on its boots. Meanwhile, back at the Bernabeu, the man it's named after is still pulling strings like a grand old puppeteer. Santiago Bernabeu's vision keeps expanding. He invests in the youth academy, grows the club's commercial reach, and dreams of new competitions. His office is filled with trophies and teacups, but his mind is already decades ahead. And you can feel it too, that shift from club to institution. Real Madrid isn't just a team anymore. It's becoming a brand, a global symbol. White shirts, fast breaks, dramatic goals. Even fans outside of Spain are beginning to follow. But it's not all glamour. Di Stefano ages. So does Puskas. Hento remains, the last of the 5-time European Cup winners, still bombing down the left wing like he's 20. But the golden age is clearly winding down. One strange incident comes in 1963. Di Stefano is kidnapped during a preseason tour of Venezuela by a leftist guerrilla group. Don't worry, he's released unharmed after 2 days, reportedly played cards with his captors, and even posed for photos with them after.
Yes, that actually happened. You can't make this stuff up.
Still, Di Stefano's days in Madrid are numbered. In 1964, after a falling out with management and a contract renewal that never arrives, he leaves the club. Quietly. No fanfare. Just an icon stepping off stage. You pause in your mind's theater, watching his silhouette fade down the tunnel, leaving behind a shadow shaped like a dynasty. The next year, Real Madrid win another European Cup. Their 6th, this time without their talisman. It's a gritty, less elegant affair. The torch has officially passed, even if no one's quite sure who caught it. By the late 60s, the club enters a curious phase. Still dominant in Spain, yes, still feared, but missing the magic that made the 1950s feel like dreams stitched together with gold thread. It's not decline, it's digestion. The banquet of success has been eaten, and now comes the long, sleepy wine course. The Bernabeu is full, but less electrified. The kits are whiter than ever, but less terrifying. New players come and go, none yet filling the boots of the departed titans. And you sit there, wrapped in your imaginary blanket, feeling the rhythm slow. The team starts winning with defense. Matches get grittier. Goals get rarer. Still good. Still Madrid, but no longer untouchable. And so ends the era of Di Stefano, of Puskas, of untouchable five-peats. You breathe in the fading smoke of a glorious past and exhale into a gentler dusk. The crown is still there, but the gleam is a little softer. For now. It's the early 1970s, and the floodlights flicker over a different kind of Real Madrid. Older, perhaps wiser, and definitely more practical. Gone are the champagne-soaked evenings of Di Stefano and Puskas. Now, the game is grittier, the tempo lower, and the spotlight falls on players with calloused boots and fewer magazine covers. You shuffle up into your usual spot at the Bernabeu, wrapped in the sleepy quiet of transition. The white shirts still command respect, but the fear they once inspired, that's faded. And here comes a name you may not have heard whispered over bedtime before. Amancio Amaro. Amancio is slick, sharp, and perhaps the most dangerous right-winger of the decade in Spain. He doesn't dazzle quite like the icons before him, but he cuts through defenses like a man in a hurry to get home before curfew. He's Madrid's new face, a different kind of legend. Workhorse first, superstar second. With Amancio and other rugged talents, Real Madrid takes hold of La Liga in 1967-68, and then again and again. In fact, they win 6 league titles in 7 seasons between 1967 and 1975. Domestically, the club remains terrifyingly efficient. Like a veteran actor delivering perfect lines with a little less sparkle but a lot more precision. And here's your quirky tidbit. In 1971, Real Madrid made the Copa del Rey final without scoring a single goal in the semifinals. Why? Because both legs against Sevilla ended 0-0, and Madrid advanced on the away goals rule. That's right, they won by not scoring. Iconic in its own tired, bureaucratic way. Internationally, though, not so rosy. The club's last European Cup win was in 1966, and they haven't looked close since. Teams like Ajax, Bayern Munich, and Liverpool are rewriting football's rules while Madrid clings to an older script. Historians still argue whether this was stubborn tradition or simply the natural lull after an era of domination. Either way, Europe becomes a sore spot. The club starts looking more inward. Then, in 1978, a seismic jolt. Santiago Bernabeu, the man who built the empire brick by brick, dies. You feel the hush ripple through Madrid. Flags dip, scarves fall limp. It's not just the end of an era, it's the death of a godfather. The stadium that bears his name fills with mourners, and even rival fans pay their respects. There's no one left quite like him. He didn't just run Real Madrid, he was Real Madrid. From the rubble of civil war to the top of Europe, he had orchestrated it all. And while most eulogies are usually overcooked, Bernabeu's might have actually been too modest. Not yet the beloved mustachioed manager of later years, but a lanky midfielder with a knack for controlling tempo. There's Piri, too, skilled, serious, always one card away from an argument. They keep things moving, if not sparkling. You look around the stadium. The fans have aged. So has the team. But Madrid remains Madrid, never too far from the title race, always annoying to play against. No one ever enjoys beating Madrid because it costs so much energy. But there's a wrinkle coming, a whisper through the air, a subtle shift in power. Barcelona, the eternal rivals, so long the second act in Madrid's spotlight, are starting to evolve. Their academy is producing talent, their style is changing, and their resentment of Madrid's political image, whether fair or exaggerated, is fueling a fire. And here comes the fringe oddity of the decade. In 1974, on the 75th anniversary of the club's founding, Madrid decides to celebrate by losing 5-0 to Barcelona at home. Johan Cruyff, just recently signed, dances through the defense like he's late to dinner and can't be stopped. The Bernabeu doesn't just fall silent, it cracks. That night feels different, something has shifted. Madrid, for the first time in decades, looks outclassed. And yet, this is Real Madrid. They don't disappear. They reload, slowly, clumsily, but determined. That loss plants a seed of fury deep within the club's roots, and it'll grow, just not yet. For now, the 1970s draw to a close, with Real Madrid firmly grounded in domestic strength, still missing that European glint. Like an aging rock band playing all the hits from its golden years, they still fill the stadium, but everyone knows the sound isn't quite the same. Still, you remain in your seat, arms folded, nodding off as the floodlights buzz overhead. The crown hasn't fallen, but it is tilted slightly, and somewhere, in the academy, or perhaps in a distant youth tournament in Argentina or the Netherlands, the next star is already tying his laces. Madrid may be resting, but it never sleeps. The decade turns. It's 1980 now. And while your limbs sink comfortably into the creaking wooden benches of the Bernabeu, Real Madrid is already stirring. The white shirts are still iconic, but there's a sense of mild confusion beneath the surface. Who are the stars now? Where is the flair? You're not sure yet, but something is brewing. The old guard has mostly gone. Amancio retired, Del Bosque now quietly marshalling the midfield. The swagger of Di Stefano's era has faded into black and white photos, hanging in dusty club offices. But Real Madrid, ever allergic to mediocrity, refuses to simply become a nostalgia piece. It's in this period of transition that a curious new chapter opens. You hear whispers through the locker rooms, the press boxes, and the fan cafes. La Quinta del Buitre, the Vulture Squad. Doesn't sound glamorous at first, does it? But soon, the names behind that strange moniker become folklore. Emilio Butragueño, Michel, Sanchis, Martín Vázquez, Bardeza. 5 young players, homegrown talents from the academy, who would eventually reshape Real Madrid's image. No flashy signings from abroad, no towering egos yet. Just 5 kids, with absurd talent and matching perms. You spot them first in Castilla, the club's B team. In 1980, they do something unheard of. They reach the Copa del Rey final. That's right. A reserve team full of teenagers plays the national final against the senior Real Madrid side. It's like watching a father play his son in FIFA and actually have to try. Madrid's first team wins, of course, but just barely. And from that point on, the Vulture Squad begins its slow ascent. By the mid-1980s, they're all in the first team. Butragueño, nicknamed El Buitre, becomes the face of this new Madrid. He's not flashy. He's efficient, ghost-like, gliding through defenses with a kind of quiet menace. You almost don't notice him until the ball's in the net. Historians still argue whether this youth-driven strategy was necessity or genius. The club's finances weren't exactly sparkling during this period. Big transfers were rare. Developing talent was not only cheaper, it was smarter. And for once, Real Madrid leaned into it fully. And it worked. In 1985-86, Madrid begin their new domestic dominance. They win 5 consecutive La Liga titles. That's right, 5. The league becomes a white-shirted carousel of Butragueño assists and Michel crosses. Other teams dread the fixture. It's not just the skill, it's the cohesion. These guys know each other. They grew up together. They pass without looking. They argue like brothers and celebrate like kids. But Europe, oh Europe, still elusive. In the mid-1980s,
And then comes 1987, and your quirky tidbit of the night. During a UEFA Cup semifinal against Inter Milan, Real Madrid overturned a 2-0 first leg loss by winning 5-1 at home. That night, the Bernabeu doesn't just roar, it trembles. The players swear the stadium actually shook. Scientists didn't verify it, Madridistas didn't care. This era becomes one of thrilling chaos. The games are fast, furious, and often ridiculous. Scores like 4-3, 5-2, 6-1 become common. Madrid don't just beat you, they overwhelm you with movement and numbers. It's not yet tiki-taka, but it's something closer to rock and roll football. And yet, for all the beauty, the European Cup remains out of reach. In 1988 and 1989, Real Madrid are knocked out of the semi-finals, both times by Milan. That Milan, Maldini, Baresi, Gullit, Van Basten, football's equivalent of being rejected by royalty. You sigh. So close, so often. Still, Madrid keep pushing. The fans remain loyal, even if slightly impatient. And through it all, the Vulture Squad keeps aging together, the curls loosening, the tackles getting a bit later, the goals still trickling in. Off the pitch, the club is entering the age of television and commercialism. La Liga matches start getting prime time treatment. The Bernabeu now glows under modern lights. The stadium is still packed, but the audience? It's global. Fans from Tokyo, London, and Buenos Aires are now tuning in. The pressure increases. The club begins thinking bigger again. You sense it. That old itch to dominate Europe is back. And there's tension building with Barcelona too. Of course there is. The Catalan club is now under Johan Cruyff's management, and his dream team philosophy is beginning to sprout wings. The rivalry takes on a new shape. Ideology versus instinct. Structure versus swagger. Catalan silk versus Madrid steel. But for now, in the warm haze of the late 80s, Real Madrid remain kings of Spain. The stadium is still full. The football is still electric. And you, slouched comfortably in your imaginary padded seat, can feel the pride humming beneath it all. La Quinta del Buich won't win a European Cup. That much you already know. But they will be remembered. Not for what they lacked, but for what they reignited, belief. The 1990s arrive not with a bang, but with a weird sigh, like a hangover after too many trophies. Real Madrid, fresh off 5 consecutive La Liga titles, seem unsure of where to go next. The Vulture Squad is aging, the tactics are old school, and Barcelona, well, they've finally gotten serious. You lean forward in your stadium seat, rubbing your eyes as if to check the scoreboard. Yes, it's real. The pendulum has swung. Johan Cruyff's dream team at Barca is soaring. They play like chess grandmasters in boots, fluid, patient, geometric. Pep Guardiola is their young conductor, and every match feels like a masterclass in space and possession. Meanwhile, Real Madrid, still trying to outrun people down the flanks like it's 1986. Between 1991 and 1994, Madrid doesn't win a single league title. Barcelona wins 4 in a row. The Bernabeu begins to murmur. Not panic, not rage, but that quiet unease that only comes when second place feels like a funeral. And yet, Madrid still finds ways to be Madrid. Here comes a strange season, 1994-95. Real Madrid are led by a coach with wild hair and a wilder reputation, Jorge Valdano. You might remember him from Argentina's 1986 World Cup win. Now he's pacing the sideline with that intellectual vibe that makes post-match interviews sound like poetry readings. Valdano brings a youthful striker into the fold, Raúl González Blanco. He's 17, baby-faced, quiet, deadly. You watch him score on his debut against Atletico with a kind of wide-eyed calm that makes you think, oh, he's going to be trouble for decades. Raúl isn't flashy, he doesn't need to be. He just appears, always in the right place, scoring goals like it's a household chore he actually enjoys. He becomes the soul of Real Madrid for a generation. If Di Stefano was fire and Butragueño was wind, Raúl is stone, solid, immovable, always there. Madrid wins the league in 1995, breaking Barcelona's streak. Relief floods the stands. It's like the city exhales for the first time in 4 years. But you want Europe, don't you? So does Madrid. They haven't won the European Cup since 1966. That's 29 years. For a club that calls itself the greatest, this is like a bakery that hasn't made bread in 3 decades. You feel it in the fans' voices. Every Champions League exit cuts deeper. And yet, quietly, steadily, the pieces are assembling. Enter Clarence Seedorf, a teenager with the stride of a veteran. Then Fernando Hierro, the stoic captain with a missile for a foot. Then Roberto Carlos, whose free kicks sound like cannon fire. Slowly, the team is transforming. In 1997, they sign a gangly, pigeon-chested striker from Yugoslavia, Predrag Mijatovic. Di Stefano watching from the stands, fans barely breathing. Minute 66. The ball breaks to Mijatovic in the box. He dribbles past 2 defenders, chips the keeper. Goal. You nearly fall out of your seat. The Bernabeu erupts. Madrid win 1-0. The drought is over. 32 years washed away in one delicate toe poke. Mijatovic becomes immortal in white. Historians still argue whether that '98 team was great or simply lucky. Juventus had Zidane.
Madrid had guts. Either way, the curse is broken, and the hunger is back. You stretch and hear transfer rumors flutter through the night air. Something is shifting. Madrid don't want to just win again. They want to own the new century. And here's your quirky tidbit. In that 1998 final, Madrid wore an all-black training kit during warm-up. Rare at the time. Fans say it made them look like a funeral procession. Juventus, as it turns out, was the dearly departed. The club hierarchy smells opportunity. New president Lorenzo Sanz opens the wallet. Stars flood in, but there's tension, politics, unrest. In 1999, Barcelona signed a teenage phenomenon named Xavi Hernandez. You don't know it yet, but he's going to be part of your life for the next 20 years. Madrid knows it too. The rivalry is about to mutate again. Meanwhile, something in the capital is stirring. New ideas, new elections, and a man named Florentino Perez quietly polishing his master plan in the background. But we'll get to that soon. For now, you rest your head against the imaginary stadium wall and exhale. Madrid is back. Not yet glorious, but dangerous again. The Vulture Squad is gone. The ghosts of the 80s are fading. And in the shadows of the Bernabeu, under the halo of a newly won European crown, something enormous is waking up. You hear it before you see it. Flashbulbs, clicking cameras, the sound of a presidential campaign in full throttle. It's the year 2000, and the marble floors of Real Madrid's headquarters echo with ambition. A new man has stepped onto the stage. Florentino Perez. If Santiago Bernabeu built the house, Perez wants to turn it into a space station. Sleek, global, futuristic. And his sales pitch? One part business genius, one part movie trailer. He promises to bring Luis Figo, yes, Barcelona's Luis Figo, to Madrid. You almost laugh, then choke on your imaginary popcorn. Figo is Barca's golden child, their captain, their engine. The idea of him in white is like the Pope showing up in a Metallica t-shirt. But then it happens. Florentino Perez wins the election. Figo signs.
Perez doesn't just want trophies, he wants box office.
The club starts buying stars, not good players, stars. World-famous names, global icons. If you're a Ballon d'Or winner, a Nike poster boy, or vaguely resemble a gladiator in cleats, you're on Perez's wish list. Next comes Zinedine Zidane in 2001. The price tag? 77.5 million euros. World record at the time. You sit in the stands and watch his unveiling like it's a rock concert. He juggles a ball in a white kit, smiles awkwardly, and makes the crowd swoon with a toe flick. It's like watching a Bond villain fall in love. And then Ronaldo, the Ronaldo, joins in 2002. The Brazilian phenomenon, fresh off winning the World Cup. You hear the stampede outside the Bernabeu as fans crowd just to see him breathe. And later, Beckham, Owen, Robinho, names that sell shirts before they touch the pitch. Historians still argue whether the Galácticos were football's future or just a really expensive fever dream. The club becomes a kind of fantasy team, unreal, glamorous, almost too shiny to touch, like a diamond spinning in the dark. But the thing is, they win. In 2002, Madrid reached the UEFA Champions League final against Bayer Leverkusen. And there, under the Scottish sky of Glasgow's Hampden Park, Zidane scores that goal. You've seen it, haven't you? That left-footed volley, waist-high, spinning through the night air like it's been kissed by angels. You hear the sound of the ball hitting the net before you even register the motion. Zidane just walks away calm, like a painter dropping his brush. Madrid win their 9th European title, La Novena. Then they lift the Intercontinental Cup, a forgotten gem of world football, and the Galáctico brand feels unstoppable. The kits sell, the stadium fills. Tourists fly from Tokyo just to take photos with the gift shop mannequins. And here's your quirky tidbit. During Beckham's presentation in 2003, over 500 media outlets attend. For context, that's more than some United Nations summits. But the cracks come faster than expected. The team is all attack and no spine. Defensive midfielders? Who needs them when you've got hair gel and Adidas deals? Key players like Claude Makélélé are let go, seen as non-commercial. Perez reportedly said, he won't sell shirts. Zidane responds, why put another coat of gold paint on a Bentley if you lose the engine? You chuckle. Even football royalty can't resist a metaphor. The trophies stop coming. Barcelona rise again, with Ronaldinho dancing through defenses like gravity doesn't apply to his smile. Madrid scramble. They hire and fire coaches like baristas changing shifts. Camacho, Luxemburgo, Quiros, they come and go. By 2006, the Galáctico ship is creaking. But one man remains, Raúl, still captain, still ghosting into the box. The goalkeeper from the academy, baby-faced, lightning reflexes. Suddenly the future doesn't look so bleak. As the first Galáctico era winds down, you feel a shift. The flash has dimmed, the headlines have cooled, but beneath it all, the heartbeat remains strong. Madrid might have spent the early 2000s as a fashion brand, but make no mistake, they're still capable of brilliance. You stretch your legs beneath your imaginary seat, listening to the echoes of Zidane's volley and the murmurs of incoming changes. Florentino Perez will resign in 2006. The Galácticos will scatter, but the dream? It never dies in Madrid. Because this isn't just a club. This is a myth that refuses to stay still. It's 2006. The lights at the Bernabeu still burn bright, but there's a strange hush in the air, like someone just paused a song mid-chorus. The Galáctico party is over. Florentino Perez has stepped down. Beckham's curls are wilting. Zidane's left-footed poetry is now a distant echo. And Raúl? Well, Raúl's still here. Of course he is. You sense Madrid is in transition again, wandering between past glory and a blurry future. The trophies have dried up. Barcelona, annoyingly, are ascendant again. And worst of all, the team doesn't feel like a team. It's like a room full of soloists playing different songs at once. But Real Madrid doesn't stay lost for long. In 2007, a new president steps in, Ramon Calderón, with just enough ambition to kickstart a reboot. He brings in some serious reinforcements. Ruud van Nistelrooy, Arjen Robben, Gonzalo Higuaín, and Marcelo, yes, that Marcelo, though he's still just a Brazilian teenager with a mop of curls and no clue that he'll become a club icon. Under coach Fabio Capello, Madrid gets serious again. No more circus tricks, just grit. Capello's team isn't pretty, but it's effective. They claw back from behind in La Liga and clinch the title in dramatic fashion in 2007. Van Nistelrooy scores like he's trying to repay a debt. The fans breathe again. It's not glamorous, but it's solid. Still, you notice something? This isn't the long-term plan. Capello's fired immediately after winning the title, because apparently winning boringly is worse than losing beautifully. Madrid wants champagne football and trophies. They're greedy that way. Enter a carousel of managers. Schuster, Juan de Ramos. Bernd Schuster even wins another league in 2008, but the instability is growing. Madrid keep chasing shadows, especially the blue and garnet one from Catalonia. Because yes, Barcelona's Dream Team 2.0 is blooming. With Pep Guardiola at the helm and Lionel Messi maturing into something not entirely human, Madrid is left squinting at their mirrors.
And in that silence, Perez returns.
Yes, Florentino Perez comes back in 2009, dusting off his blueprints like a Bond villain returning for the sequel. But he's learned. This time, the Galáctico project comes with reinforcements, structure, strategy, maybe even defense. And here comes the mother of all transfers, Cristiano Ronaldo. 94 million euro. Highest fee ever at the time. The Portuguese star steps off the plane, sunglasses on, cheekbones carved from lightning, and says, "This is the club of my heart." You raise an eyebrow. Sure it is. But then Madrid also signs Kaká, Karim Benzema, and Xabi Alonso. It's not just a shopping spree. It's a declaration. We're done being second best. Cristiano arrives as a global icon, but he still has something to prove. He trains like a cyborg, scores goals like he's farming them, and refuses to smile unless he's scored at least twice. The fans are skeptical at first, then dazzled, then obsessed. Your quirky tidbit? During his official presentation at the Bernabeu, 80,000 people attend. That's more than some Champions League finals. The crowd shouts "See you" years before it becomes a meme. The man hasn't played a minute yet, and the city's already tattooing his name onto their hearts. With him arrives a spark, a new hunger, a storm, but not immediate success. In his first season, Cristiano scores 33 goals. Madrid finishes second. Barcelona, with Messi, Xavi, and Iniesta, completes a historic treble. You sigh, deeply. It's déjà vu, but worse. So Perez ups the ante again. He hires Jose Mourinho. Now, Mourinho isn't here to be liked. He's here to win, and punch walls, and glare at referees until they spontaneously combust. He's just led Inter Milan to the Champions League title, and now walks into Madrid like a general returning to war. His first order of business? End Barcelona's dominance. You settle in, popcorn at the ready, because this next chapter, it's going to be chaos, and trophies, and headlines. Lots of headlines. But as the 2010s peek over the horizon, one thing is already clear. Real Madrid has been rebooted, recharged, and reborn. Again. The Bernabeu doesn't blink. It watches. That's what you realize when Jose Mourinho arrives in 2010. Dark coat, darker glare, ego polished to a mirror sheen. You take your usual place in the stands, eyes adjusting to the new atmosphere. The stadium isn't holding its breath anymore. It's sharpening its teeth. Mourinho doesn't waste time. He declares war on complacency, mediocrity, and, most visibly, Barcelona. He studies them like a rival general obsessed with one target. And why wouldn't he be?
Now entering his full comic book villain phase.
The step-overs are faster, the celebrations louder, and the abs, somehow even more sculpted. Cristiano and Mourinho are a match made in football heaven, or possibly a courtroom. You watch as Madrid becomes efficient, aggressive, and obsessed. The training sessions tighten. The players commit. The Champions League is circled in red ink. But first, there's the Clásico. Ah yes, the Clásico. Madrid vs. Barcelona is now less a football match and more a Shakespearean blood feud staged for 700 million viewers. And here's your quirky tidbit. In the 2010-11 season, the two clubs face each other 5 times in 18 days. La Liga, Copa del Rey final, and 2 legs of the Champions League semifinal. 5 matches. 1 rivalry, 0 peace. In the Copa del Rey final, Madrid finally strike. Minute 103. Di Maria crosses. Cristiano launches into the air like a human trebuchet. Boom. Goal. Trophy. You hear Madrid fans scream into the night like ghosts finally freed. But in the Champions League semis, Barca knocked them out. Messi dances past defenders like gravity forgot about him. Mourinho? Sent off, banned, and muttering about conspiracies involving UEFA, referees, and possibly the moon. Still, the mood has changed. In 2011-12, Madrid hit beast mode. They set a La Liga record with 100 points and 121 goals. Cristiano scores 46 in the league alone. Ozil paints assists with a magician's grin. Benzema evolves. Even Pepe, known mostly for controlled chaos,
Starts defending like he's reading Dostoevsky in his downtime. They beat Barcelona at Camp Nou in April 2012, a dagger through the heart of Guardiola's empire. Mourinho slides onto the pitch in celebration, coat flapping behind him like a superhero's cape. Madrid take the title, and the Bernabeu purrs like a dragon just fed. Historians still argue whether Mourinho's Madrid was beautiful football. Many say no. But it was effective, ruthless, and deeply Real Madrid. In that sense, it was the most authentic thing they'd seen in years. But the empire starts cracking again, this time from the inside. Mourinho turns on his own players, benches Casillas, clashes with Sergio Ramos, feuds with the media. The war he built so carefully becomes a war against himself. The football stays strong, but the chemistry? Acidic. In 2013, Mourinho leaves. No farewell tour, just a press conference and a well-ironed suit disappearing into the tunnel. Then comes Carlo Ancelotti. If Mourinho is fire and friction, Ancelotti is silk and espresso. Calm, charming, and somehow always chewing gum. He walks into Madrid like someone who knows how to fix a chandelier without ever touching it. And he brings something new. Balance. Modric, who had struggled at first, now shines. The 10th European Cup. For over a decade, fans have whispered it like a curse. 9 felt eternal, 10 felt possible. Then, it's May 24th, 2014. Champions League final, Lisbon. Madrid vs. Atletico. The entire city is shut down. Families divided. Nerves frayed. Atletico lead 1-0 as the match ticks into its 93rd minute. You clench your imaginary stadium seat. Corner kick. Modric whips it in. And there he is, Sergio Ramos, rising like a guided missile. Boom. Equalizer. 92-48. It's the kind of goal that makes time stop and start again. Extra time? Madrid scores 3 more. Bale, Marcelo, Cristiano, with a penalty and a full shirt removal, obviously. Madrid win 4-1. La Decima. Finally. You hear the word echo across the world. Decima. 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 Tears, smiles, sleepy fans in Malaysia sobbing into their jerseys. This isn't just a trophy, it's an exorcism. And your quirky moment? After the final whistle, Ancelotti casually lifts the trophy with one hand, gum still in mouth, like he's just finished mowing the lawn. Madrid closed the season with the Champions League and Copa del Rey. Bale scores in that final too, sprinting the length of the pitch, past the advertising boards, to score the winner. Physics files a complaint. So you sit back now, drifting, as the Bernabeu glows in champagne light. Cristiano is king. Ramos is legend. Ancelotti smiles. The fans sing. Real Madrid are back. And this time, they brought 10. After La Decima, you'd think Real Madrid might sit back, relax, maybe sip some sangria and admire the glow of that long-awaited 10th European Cup. But you've been with this club long enough to know better. Real Madrid never lounges. They reload. The season is 2014-15. Carlo Ancelotti is still at the helm, cool as a breeze. Cristiano Ronaldo, now in full superhuman mode. Gareth Bale, gaining confidence by the minute. Benzema, quietly connecting everything like a symphonic conductor who doesn't need applause. And in midfield, you now have Toni Kroos, German precision personified, and James Rodriguez, fresh off his World Cup wonder goal. This team feels like a football mixtape. Elegance, muscle, and just the right amount of chaos. And at first, everything clicks. Real Madrid go on a 22-match winning streak, a club record.
You raise an eyebrow. The fans raise too. Benitez is a tactical wizard, but maybe too methodical, too cold, too not Madrid. From day one, the dressing room bristles. Cristiano doesn't smile. Ramos doesn't commit. Benitez talks about balance, but what he gets is imbalance. It all boils over in January 2016 after a 4-0 humiliation at home to Barcelona. Benitez is gone before the coffee cools. And then, like a whisper from the club's past, a familiar figure walks into the dressing room. Zinedine Zidane. You blink. Yes, that Zidane. From the volley in Glasgow, from the posters on teenage bedroom walls. Now, he's wearing a suit. Quiet. Intense. Eyes like he's already seen how the story ends. Historians still argue whether Zidane was appointed out of vision or desperation. No senior managerial experience, no tactical manifesto. Just a man whose aura stretches across the solar system. But Madrid is a club that trusts its own myths, and it works. Boy, does it work. Zidane simplifies the game, brings back smiles, lets Modric glide again, lets Cristiano hunt again. Within 5 months, they're in the Champions League final again. It's 2016. San Siro. Madrid versus Atletico. Again. It goes to extra time. Again. Then to penalties. 5 shots, 5 goals. Ramos converts. Bale limps through the pain. Cristiano, of course, takes the final one. Madrid wins La Undécima, the 11th. Zidane's first half season ends in a European title. Your imaginary cup of tea trembles on your nightstand. Then comes 2016-17, a season so perfect you barely believe it happened. Madrid rotate their squad with precision. Zidane manages egos like a therapist. Cristiano saves his energy for the Champions League, then explodes in the knockout rounds. They win La Liga for the first time in 5 years. Then they reach another Champions League final versus Juventus. You remember this one, in Cardiff. The match is close at halftime. Then Madrid detonates. Casemiro scores, then Cristiano, then Marco Asensio, baby-faced and ruthless. Final score, 4-1. Madrid become the first club to retain the Champions League since the format changed in 1992. You smile. You knew this team had it in them. But wait, it's not over. The next season, 2017-18, Madrid stumble in La Liga but march through Europe like they own the continent. They defeat PSG, then Juventus, thanks to a Cristiano bicycle kick that makes physics feel embarrassed. Then Bayern, and on May 26, 2018, they face Liverpool and Kiev. And this one's a bit strange. Salah goes off injured early. Karius has a night to forget. Gareth Bale scores.
Says the players need a new voice. 3 titles in 3 years. Then poof, and the Bernabeu. It doesn't scream, it just smiles. Because Real Madrid doesn't cling to glory, it builds it, then lets it go, then builds it again. Now imagine the Bernabeu without Cristiano Ronaldo. Feels weird, doesn't it? But that's exactly what happens in the summer of 2018. After 9 seasons, 450 goals, 4 Ballons d'Or, and enough shirtless celebrations to last a generation, Cristiano packs his bags and heads for Juventus. 1 minute he's a monument, the next he's just gone. And you're left in your usual stadium seat, blinking at the empty space he leaves behind. Real Madrid doesn't just lose a player, it loses an entire identity. For nearly a decade, Cristiano was the headline, the muscle, the goal machine, the one constant in a swirling sea of coaches and egos. Without him, things wobble. Julen Lopetegui is appointed manager, fresh from being sacked as Spain's national coach for, wait for it, accepting the Madrid job days before the World Cup. You can already feel this one won't end well. Spoiler, it doesn't. Madrid start poorly. They lose to Sevilla, get humiliated 5-1 by Barcelona in October, and Lopetegui is out faster than you can say bad timing. Enter Santiago Solari, interim coach, former player, decent jawline. He promotes youth, gives Vinicius Jr. his first proper chances, and briefly stabilizes the chaos. But then comes March 2019. You remember this one. It's like a horror movie montage set to sad violin music. In the span of 7 days, Madrid get knocked out of the Copa del Rey by Barcelona, beaten again by Barcelona in the league, and then dumped out of the Champions League by Ajax at home, losing 4-1. Yes, 4 goals from Ajax in the Bernabeu. You can almost hear the stadium sigh in disappointment. Not scream, not groan, just sigh. Solari is gone. And then, like a plot twist you saw coming but still cheered for, Zidane returns. Historians still argue whether he returned out of loyalty or because he missed the smell of victory. Either way, he finds a club wounded, tired, and very much Cristiano-less. But Zidane doesn't panic. He rebuilds with patience. The next season, 2019-20, Madrid grind their way to a La Liga title, their first since 2017. It's not swashbuckling, but it's controlled, mature, efficient. Sergio Ramos scores goals like a striker. Benzema becomes the leader he was always meant to be. And Courtois, he turns into a wall. Your quirky tidbit? That 2019-20 season ends in July because the pandemic freezes the world. Games are played in empty stadiums. Zidane coaches in a surgical mask. Goals echo like cannon blasts in silence. Football becomes a strange dream. The league title is won without fanfare, but maybe that makes it...
The midfield trio, Modric, Kroos, Casemiro, still hums like a Rolls-Royce, but they're older, more deliberate. The sparks come less often. And by 2021, Zidane steps down again. This time, no surprise. Just a gentle farewell, as if he knows the cycle has ended. You lean back in your imaginary seat as another old face returns to the dugout. Carlo Ancelotti. Yes, him again. Still chewing gum, still calm. Still somehow everyone's favorite uncle. Nobody expects much. The squad is aging. Benzema is now 33. Modric is nearly 36. The youngsters, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Valverde, and new signing Eduardo Camavinga are exciting but raw. It feels like a transitional year. Then something ridiculous happens. Madrid start winning. Not just winning, dominating. Vinicius explodes. The kid who used to trip over his own feet now glides past defenders like he's late for a party. Benzema, in the form of his life. Headers, volleys, back heels, he's scoring like a man chasing ghosts. Madrid cruise through La Liga. And somehow, they reach another Champions League final. Their path is absurd. Against PSG, they're 2-0 down on aggregate. Benzema scores a hat trick in 17 minutes. Against Chelsea, they almost collapse, until Modric's outside foot assist in the dying moments. Against Manchester City, they score 2 goals in the 90th minute to force extra time. Historians still argue whether that was brilliance or black magic. And on May 28, 2022, they face Liverpool again in the final. You're back in Paris this time. The match is tense. Liverpool dominate the first half. Courtois makes save after save, like he's become a Marvel character mid-match. Then, in the 59th minute, Valverde drives forward and squares the ball. Rodrigo? No. Benzema? No. Vinicius Jr. One-touch finish. Calm. Cold. Madrid win 1-0. Their 14th European Cup. Quirky tidbit, Courtois makes 9 saves, a Champions League final record. Liverpool fans are still having nightmares about his gloves. And Ancelotti? He becomes the first manager in history to win the Champions League 4 times. He just shrugs, chews his gum, and raises an eyebrow. As if to say, what took you so long? Madrid's newest heroes aren't the ones you expected. No Galácticos. No mega fees. Just kids, legends, and an old Italian manager who knows exactly when not to panic. You smile. The cycle spins again.
You're still basking in the afterglow of that 14th European crown. But, of course, Real Madrid is already sprinting toward the next chapter. They don't do slow mornings. They do transfer buzz, rising stars, and soft-booted assassins arriving without fuss. The summer of 2020. Meanwhile, Benzema is on top of the world. In October 2022, he wins the Ballon d'Or. Finally, it feels overdue, like an apology from the football gods. He stands there in his tuxedo, beard sharp, voice quiet, no fireworks. Just a man who waited, worked, and delivered. The 2022-2003 season, though, doesn't go exactly to plan. The team starts strong but begins to wobble. Vinicius remains electric. Modric still dictates rhythm like he's conducting a sleepy jazz band. But Benzema gets injured more often, Cruz begins to tire, even Ancelotti starts to look mortal. In La Liga, Barcelona pulls ahead. In the Copa del Rey, Madrid get revenge, finally, beating Barcelona 4-0 at Camp Nou in the semi-final. Rodrigo scores twice, Valverde roars. It's a high point in an otherwise lopsided domestic season. But the Champions League? Oh, here we go again. Madrid eliminate Liverpool 5-2 in the round of 16, with all 5 goals coming at Anfield. It's like deja vu, but meaner. Vinicius runs riot. Courtois turns brick wall again. You almost feel sorry for Klopp's bewildered sideline squints. Then comes the semi-final, Real Madrid versus Manchester City, again. In the first leg, it's a tactical ballet, tight, nervy, balanced. But the second leg, at the Etihad, it's a mauling. City win 4-0, and this time, Madrid can't summon ghosts or magic or Modric's outside foot. The cycle finally stutters. You feel it, the end of an era, but not of the club. Florentino Perez has already thought ahead. He always does. Because while Benzema quietly exits, off to Saudi Arabia, in a move that feels more farewell letter than press release, the next face of the club has already been chosen. Jude Bellingham. The English midfielder arrives in the summer of 2023, aged 20 with composure beyond belief. Within weeks, he owns the pitch. Box to box, back heels, headers, last-minute winners. He does it all, and he celebrates with open arms, staring at the crowd like he's posing for a Roman statue commission. Historians already debate it. Is Bellingham the best signing since Cristiano? Is he a midfielder, a false nine, a hybrid superhero? Also joining are Joselu, Brahim Diaz returning, and most importantly, Fran Garcia and Arda Güler, the quiet investment in the future. The squad gets younger, hungrier, sleeker, but Madrid isn't done, because now in the summer of 2024, the biggest domino finally falls. Kylian Mbappe. After years of rumors, near moves, and endless Twitter debates, Mbappe finally signs for Real Madrid. You remember this day like it's a royal wedding. The Bernabeu overflows. Kids wear number 9 shirts before he's even scored a goal. He arrives not just as a striker, but as a statement. Fast as light, composed as ice, and for once...
And your quirky tidbit? Jude Bellingham becomes the first Real Madrid player since Di Stefano to score 5 game-winning goals in his first 5 league matches. The kid's got plot armor. Now, the Bernabeu itself transforms. A massive renovation project, years in the making, finally finishes. The stadium becomes part spaceship, part museum, part techno palace. A retractable roof, 360-degree LED screens, underground pitch storage, and even a cooling system to battle the brutal Madrid summers. You sit in your same imaginary seat, but the view is from the future now. The club's identity has shifted again, but the essence remains untouched. A relentless hunger, a disregard for narrative logic, a refusal to fade. Real Madrid don't rebuild, they evolve. And the scariest part, this new chapter is just beginning. So here you are, sitting quietly inside the all-new Santiago Bernabeu, a monument now wrapped in steel and glass, pulsing with LED light and big dreams. The turf retracts, the roof whispers closed, the crowd hums like a sleeping beast, just waiting for something or someone to wake it up. And on the pitch, Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, Rodrigo, Camavinga, Valverde. It's not just a football team anymore, it's a constellation. You don't even need to squint. The future is bright, bold, and full of speed. They don't play football so much as detonate it. In the 2024-25 season, Madrid is running at full tilt again. Vinicius dances past defenders with that now signature blend of samba and spite. Bellingham, still only 21, controls the tempo like he's tuning a piano mid-sprint. And Mbappe, well, he doesn't just score, he erupts. You barely have time to register the run before the net bulges. And yes, the team keeps winning. The UEFA Super Cup bagged. La Liga wrestled back from Barcelona. The Champions League final, another page written, another anthem raised, another trophy added to the shelf where the dust never settles. Ancelotti's still there, remarkably guides it all with that signature half smile and unflappable serenity. He doesn't yell, he nods, and that's enough, but even legends step aside eventually. In late 2025, the whisper begins. Ancelotti will retire. He's coached 2 generations, 4 countries, and half the Ballon d'Or shortlist. When he lifts his last trophy, he doesn't cry. He just looks up at the rafters, at the names, the lights, the weight of all that history, and smiles. And Madrid already moving forward. The new coach, maybe Raúl, maybe Xabi Alonso. Historians still argue who's best suited to guide this glowing next gen. But here's the point. The identity never leaves. Because no matter the year, the captain, or the badge design, Real Madrid carries something deeper, something older, something impossible. From the days of Di Stefano's smoky genius, to Cristiano's chest-thumping declarations, from Galácticos to homegrown grit, from the black and white reels to the TikTok edits, it's all the same club. The same refusal to be ordinary.
You recall that the club's motto isn't just Halaaa Madrid, it's Hasta el final, vamos Real. Until the end, let's go, Real.
And you've been on the journey, from Chamartin's dust to Wembley's floodlights.
From goats on the touchline to drone shows above the stadium. From whispers of La Decima to the thunder of the 14th and counting. Quirky tidbit to leave you with? As of 2025, Real Madrid has appeared in more European Cup finals than any other team, and won more of them too. And yet, if you ask any Madridista, they'll tell you the next one always matters more. So now the curtain lowers, the lights dim, but the story? It keeps writing itself. Because Real Madrid is not a team, it's a continuum. And somewhere, out there, in the training grounds, under the soft buzz of stadium lights, another kid is juggling a ball, quiet, hungry, wearing white, waiting to become the next legend. And now, you rest. You let the roar of the crowd fade into a soft hum behind your eyelids. The white shirts, the golden trophies, the rush of last-minute goals. They dissolve into gentle waves of memory. You drift through the corridors of the Bernabeu, not as a tourist now, but as a quiet witness. Every banner, every echo, every ghost of greatness is stitched into the fabric of this place. And you've walked beside them. From the dusty fields of 1902 to the glass palace skyline of 2025. The game slows. The cleats no longer clatter. The anthem fades. The grass, glowing under the floodlights, seems to shimmer like moonlight on water. You breathe out. It's peaceful here. Not because the club ever stops striving, but because you've seen it survive everything. Crises, comebacks, chaos, champions. Again and again, the cycle repeats, but stronger, louder, better. Real Madrid is not a moment. It is emotion. And so, as you curl deeper into the quiet, let your mind settle on the image of that famous crest, gently rocking like a lullaby over your heart. Let go. The match has ended. The story for now is complete. But the dream never ends. Buenas noches.